The moon might hold the key to space survival. Scientists discovered craters and caves with stable, livable temperatures of 17 degrees Celsius.
Researchers believe they've discovered a location for a possible future base on the moon. Scientists say it's probably an empty lava tube.
NASA's probe photographs this area on the moon that was actually in the Sea of Tranquility only 300 kilometers away from where Apollo 11 ended up landing.
These shelters could protect astronauts from cosmic radiation, meteorites, and temperature extremes. Using thermal imaging, a pit in Mare Tranquillitatis was found to maintain this stability. Let us uncover the secrets within, the lunar wells that might save astronauts. Back in 2009, researchers stumbled upon what's now known as lunar pits, or wells. These are big, dark holes in the moon's surface that seem to hint at hidden caves below. Over the years, scientists have been wondering if these pits might lead to caverns that could protect people from all the nasty stuff floating around in space. Cosmic rays, harsh solar radiation, and even tiny meteorites that can't wait to smash into something are all lurking out there. What they found within those depths defied everything they knew about the moon. The big question was always, what's the temperature like down there? After all, the moon isn't exactly known for being cozy. On the surface, temperatures swing like crazy. During the day, when the sun's blasting it for about 15 Earth days straight, things can heat up to 127 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to boil water. Then, when the sun goes down for another 2 weeks of darkness, temperatures drop to a jaw-dropping minus 170 degrees Celsius. It's a wild ride, not the kind of place anyone would want to hang out unless they enjoy freezing and roasting at the same time. But here's where it gets interesting. Using data from NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, researchers zeroed in on a specific pit in an area of the moon called Mare Tranquillitatis. This isn't just any pit. It's 100 meters deep and about as wide as a soccer field. Pretty massive, right? They used a thermal camera to take a closer look and found something surprising. The temperature inside the shaded parts of the pit barely changes. It stays at a consistent, livable 17 degrees Celsius. That's right in the sweet spot. Not too hot, not too cold. This steady temperature has a lot to do with the way the pit's shaded. During the lunar day, the overhangs of the pit block out most of the sun's heat, keeping things cool. At night, those same overhangs help trap what little heat is left, so it doesn't all escape into the freezing void. It's like nature's thermostat, working perfectly to create a stable environment. Now here's the exciting part. Scientists think that some of these pits lead to underground caves. If that's true, then those caves might also have the same stable temperatures. Imagine that, a natural shelter on the moon, ready and waiting for human explorers. These caves could be game changers for lunar missions. Not only would they shield people from the dangerous radiation and temperature extremes, but they'd also provide a solid base to set up camp and maybe even start building a lunar colony. Think about the history here. Humans have always turned to caves for shelter. Way back on Earth, when life was all about survival, caves were the perfect spot to stay safe from wild animals and harsh weather. It's kind of poetic to think that if humans ever moved to the moon, they might go full circle and live in caves again. Except this time, they'd be dodging space hazards instead of saber-toothed tigers. What's next? Scientists are eager to explore these pits and caves in more detail. They want to know how deep the caves go, what they're made of, and whether they could really work as long-term habitats. There's also the question of resources. Could these caves hold water ice or other materials humans could use? If they do, that would make them even more valuable. Of course, this isn't going to happen overnight. Setting up shop on the moon is a massive challenge, with a ton of technical and logistical hurdles to jump through. But discoveries like these pits make it feel a lot more doable. The moon's no longer just a barren, lifeless rock. It's starting to look like a place where humans could actually live and thrive. From the moon's discoveries, we turn to Mars, where a stunning story may lie beneath its sands. Nuclear shadows on the red planet. Mars, the red planet, has always been a source of fascination. Its rusty, barren landscapes spark curiosity. But what if there was more to its past than just rocks and dust? Some recent findings hint at something mind-blowing, evidence of nuclear warfare on Mars. It started with NASA's Curiosity rover, which landed on the planet in August of 2012. The mission was supposed to uncover the mysteries of Mars's chemical makeup. Scientists expected a lot of oxidized iron dust, a fancy way of saying rust. What they didn't expect was xenon-129, an isotope that's basically a radioactive smoking gun. And here's where things get really weird. Xenon-129 is commonly associated with nuclear explosions. Not just any explosions, but massive, earth-shaking blasts like the ones humanity has tested for decades. On Earth, Xenon-129 appears as a byproduct of nuclear weapon detonation. The fact that Mars's atmosphere has more of it than Earth is raising all kinds of eyebrows. NASA scientists initially thought it might be solar wind, charged particles streaming from the sun, but that theory didn't hold up. The sun couldn't possibly spew out enough to account for what was found on Mars. Enter Dr. John Brandenburg, a physicist with a flair for bold claims. He's not just any scientist. He's worked on high-profile space missions. His analysis of the Mars data led him to a jaw-dropping conclusion. Mars might have been the site of a catastrophic nuclear war 300 million years ago. And it wasn't just any small skirmish. The radioactive hotspots found on the planet suggest explosions powerful enough to rival anything humans have ever created. To visualize this, think about the destruction caused by atomic bombs on Earth, like in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those were devastating, but they pale in comparison to what Brandenburg claims happened on Mars. These were massive airbursts, meaning they detonated above the surface. No craters, just sheer, unimaginable destruction raining down. If this theory is true, who or what could have been responsible? Scientists and researchers have debated for decades whether Mars once harbored life. Millions of years ago, the planet might have had water, an atmosphere, and conditions ripe for living organisms. But a nuclear apocalypse? That's a whole new level of speculation. If there was intelligent life on Mars, were they wiped out in some cosmic war? Or, here's a chilling thought, was Mars attacked by an external force? Some argue this external force might have been an alien civilization, a predatory species with technology capable of annihilation on a planetary scale. Imagine ancient Martians looking up at their skies, only to see massive flashes of light and feel waves of destruction tearing through everything they knew. The idea feels like a sci-fi blockbuster, but Brandenburg's research forces us to ask, could it have been real? Skeptics, of course, have their counterpoints. They point to natural nuclear reactions, which have happened on Earth. In Gabon, Africa, there's a uranium deposit that naturally triggered sustained nuclear reactions billions of years ago. But even this example doesn't fully align with what's been found on Mars. For one, natural nuclear reactors would leave massive craters, none of which are present in Mars's radioactive zones. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. The pieces just don't match. This isn't the first time Mars has teased us with signs of an intriguing past. In the 1870s, astronomers thought they spotted canals on its surface, hinting at an advanced civilization. Then came the Viking probes in the 1970s, sending back images that some thought showed pyramids and a sphinx-like face. Most of those interpretations turned out to be tricks of light and shadow, but the allure of Martian mysteries never faded. Fast forward to recent years, and high-resolution images have sparked new theories. Some see ruins resembling Bronze Age cities, complete with walls and structures. If such civilizations existed, they wouldn't have had the technology for nuclear warfare. That's where the alien intervention theory gains traction. The idea that an external force destroyed Mars's biosphere in one fell swoop is as chilling as it is fascinating. The implications of all this are staggering. If Mars did experience nuclear war, it rewrites the story of our solar system. It would mean that intelligent life, with all its creativity and destructiveness, isn't unique to Earth. But it also raises uncomfortable questions. If aliens wiped out life on Mars, could they target Earth next? Or did the Martians destroy themselves, serving as a cautionary tale for humanity? Brandenburg's theories are controversial, to say the least. Many mainstream scientists remain unconvinced, arguing that more evidence is needed. After all, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. But the presence of Xenon-129 and other anomalies on Mars keeps the debate alive. Is it a natural phenomenon we've yet to fully understand, or a sign of something far more sinister? Beyond the nuclear war theory, Mars has other intriguing clues that hint at a lively past. There's evidence suggesting that the planet was once warm and wet, with lakes, rivers, and even oceans. These conditions could have supported microbial life or even more complex organisms. But something happened. a turning point that transformed Mars into the dry, desolate world we see today? Was it a natural disaster? Or was it something far more catastrophic, like nuclear annihilation? Mars has always held a special place in human imagination. For centuries, people have speculated about the possibility of life there. In 1877, Giovanni Schiaparelli's observations of what he called canali on Mars fueled public fascination. Though these canals were later proven to be optical illusions, they sparked decades of speculation about Martian civilizations. By the 20th century, our understanding of Mars evolved with advancements in technology. The Viking landers in the 1970s provided unprecedented images of the Martian surface. Some photos appeared to show artificial structures, but these were ultimately dismissed as natural formations. Still, the idea that Mars might have been home to intelligent life persisted. Recent explorations have reignited these questions. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has captured images of structures that some interpret as remnants of ancient cities. Could these be the ruins of a once thriving Martian civilization? If so, what led to their downfall? Was it self-inflicted destruction, or were they victims of an interstellar conflict? The notion of interstellar conflict introduces a terrifying possibility. If Mars was attacked by an advanced alien civilization, it could imply that our universe is far more dangerous than we've ever imagined. These hypothetical aliens might have seen Mars as a threat, or simply as a resource to exploit. The devastation left in their wake serves as a stark warning of what could happen to any planet, including our own. Natural disasters, such as asteroid impacts or volcanic eruptions, could also explain Mars's transformation. However, these scenarios don't account for the peculiar abundance of xenon-129 in the Martian atmosphere. This anomaly remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence supporting the nuclear war theory. After Mars's puzzling past, Venus offers clues that could change how we see life. Could Venus host alien microbes? Mars might grab all the headlines, with talks of possible fossilized remnants of ancient life, but Venus is quietly challenging its neighbor with its own intriguing mysteries. The spotlight may be dimmer, but the discoveries bubbling up about Venus might just change everything we think we know about life in our solar system. And here is the kicker. If there is life on Venus, it could still be alive and kicking today. Venus does not scream welcome to life at first glance. While Mars has been the darling of researchers, with its more Earth-like features, Venus seems like the hellish sibling no one wants to deal with. Sure, it is about the same size as Earth, but its atmosphere is the stuff of nightmares, a suffocating mix of sulfur compounds and sulfuric acid, with temperatures hot enough to melt lead. That does not exactly sound like a place microbes would throw a party, but the story does not stop there. A long time ago, Venus might have looked a lot more like Earth. Some theories suggest it could have been an ocean-covered world, teeming with water for far longer than Mars ever managed. That is all gone now, replaced by a crushing atmosphere and surface temperatures of over 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Not exactly beachfront property. Still, scientists are uncovering strange clues that refuse to let Venus's potential for life be written off entirely. The first big eyebrow raiser came when scientists noticed something weird in Venus's atmosphere. Something was absorbing ultraviolet light. This kicked off all kinds of speculation, including an idea floated by Carl Sagan back in the 1960s that microbes could be behind it. The idea? Tiny organisms floating high in the clouds could be gobbling up sunlight to fuel their little lives. In the upper atmosphere of Venus, about 31 miles up, the conditions are not too shabby. The temperature and pressure are surprisingly Earth-like. It is still a far cry from cozy, but it is the only place in our solar system outside Earth where you would not need a full-body spacesuit to survive, though you would probably want one anyway. Adding to the mystery, Soviet Venera missions detected strange, elongated particles in Venus's atmosphere decades ago. These particles were about the size of bacteria, but no one has been able to explain them. On top of that, there are these dark streaks in the clouds that grow, shrink, and shift like microbial blooms here on Earth. If these streaks are indeed alive, we have been unknowingly observing life on Venus for centuries, just misinterpreting what we are seeing. Then came the bombshell, phosphine gas. A few years ago, scientists detected traces of this gas in Venus's atmosphere. On Earth, phosphine is strongly linked to living organisms, but here is the catch. You do not need life to make phosphine. It can also form through non-biological processes. Still, finding phosphine where it should not be, like Venus, gets scientists' attention. The phosphine discovery caused quite the stir. At first, researchers thought they had found high levels of the gas, but later studies scaled it back. Even so, the fact that it is there at all is a big deal. And it is not just phosphine. When scientists looked closer, they realized the gas seems to appear and disappear depending on the time of day. It builds up during Venus's long night and then gets destroyed by sunlight during the day. That kind of cycle, where something replenishes at night, is a hallmark of biological activity. It gets stranger. When researchers dug into old data from NASA's Pioneer Venus missions, they found phosphine had been detected back in the 1970s. This was not a one-time fluke. And now, there is another piece to the puzzle: ammonia. Like phosphine, ammonia should not really be in Venus's atmosphere. It is a basic compound, meaning it could help neutralize the acidic environment, making things just a bit friendlier for life. Combine that with phosphine, and you have got two gases that should not be there but are, and they are pointing towards something unusual. There is also this curious sulfur compound called S8, which has already been spotted in Venus's atmosphere. S8 can form naturally, but here is the interesting part. It is resistant to sulfuric acid and absorbs ultraviolet light. If there were life on Venus, it could potentially use S8 as a kind of armor. Imagine microbes wrapped in tiny sulfur shields, thriving in one of the harshest environments imaginable. It is wild, but not impossible. The ammonia discovery also brings up another intriguing idea. While phosphine is still a bit of a mystery when it comes to its role in life's processes, ammonia is a lot more straightforward. It could act as a buffer, tempering Venus's acidic atmosphere just enough for life to get by. The big question is, how does ammonia keep appearing? Like phosphine, it is unstable in Venus's environment, so something must be replenishing it. Could it be life? It is too early to say, but it is a question worth chasing. What makes this even more fascinating is that we are not just talking about single gas detections. It is the combination of phosphine, ammonia, and other atmospheric quirks that builds the case for something unusual happening on Venus. Scientists are getting better at spotting these gas-based clues on exoplanets too, using them as a roadmap to identify potentially habitable worlds far beyond our solar system. If we are seeing these signals on Venus, it might help us fine-tune our search for life elsewhere. But here is the twist that is both exciting and a little unnerving. If we confirm that Venus, Mars, and Earth all hosted life at some point, it suggests abiogenesis, the process of life arising from non-living matter, is not all that rare. If life is so common, why are we not seeing intelligent civilizations out there? This is where the Fermi paradox and great filters come into play. Maybe life is abundant, but complex, intelligent life is incredibly rare. Or worse, intelligent life always hits some catastrophic hurdle, a great filter, that wipes it out. If Venus has life, it might be clinging on in what is called a relict biosphere, where conditions have become so hostile that life retreats to tiny, isolated niches. It is a scenario that raises all sorts of questions. Could Venusian microbes pose a risk if brought back to Earth? What if Earth's life is equally incompatible with Venus's environment? These are the kinds of questions scientists will need to answer as they plan future missions to explore Venus more closely. Speaking of missions, the coming years are packed with Venus-focused projects. NASA and ESA are both sending missions to Venus, and there is even talk of privately funded efforts to hunt for life in its clouds. With better instruments and new data, we might finally get some clarity on what is going on up there. Should we risk bringing microbes from Venus to Earth to study them, or are the dangers too great compared to what we might learn? Follow and share the excitement of exploring space.